All right. Hi, my name is Kalahiki Reid. This is my senior capstone proposal. My project name is Eye of the Beholder. Oop, screen isn't working. Oh, it's clicking. My bad. Okay, so a brief background of me. My name is Kalahiki Reid, and I am a transfer student. I spent 2 years at Leeward Community College before I transferred over to the University of West Oahu. And before college, I was a graduate of IAEA High School back in 2017. And when I got to college, I went into creative media for my program of study. And the concentration I picked was video game design. Now, executive summary, I will explain my plans for the senior capstone project, my thesis statement, my objective and rationale of the research, and evidence of my research. So my thesis statement. Now, beauty standards are dependent on the location and time period. They are subject to change by location through the progression of time. Complete subject. Now, the objective and rationale for my research is that I wanted to see why beauty standards are the way they are and how they affect. And beauty standards are like a standard prevalent through all time and culture. It depends on where you live and when you live. And as a media student, becoming aware of these visual choices will help me in understanding what to create and what to present. Now, my senior capstone plans for my overall project, yes, I'm going to be doing a project, is that at the end of my capstone semester, I will be using drawings to show the subjective beauty standards of what is and is not considered beautiful. And each drawing very, will have a clear flaw of some sorts, but I'm going to make it clear that the flaw is entirely insignificant. Now, what is the significance of my research? Number one is that beauty standards affect a person's quality of life. It's like this expectation that's put on people, expectations they human being. And it has this really toxic effect on a person's self-esteem, and it can manifest into self-hatred. And if you want these people to like conform or meet the standards, it causes them to engage in some very unhealthy practices in order to meet these beauty standards. And it can lead to eating disorders. Now, significance number two, social media is prevalent. It's how it spreads, it's how these standards become more present. And influencers and other media makers are spreading these beauty standards unknowingly or not. And future implications of this is that social media is only going to become more popular. It's going to become more ingrained in people's lives. And these types of beauty standards are only going to become more variety, but they're also going to be more present. And a data from the Pew Research Center in 2001, 7 out of 10 Americans will use any type of social media. People from ages from 18 to 29 are the majority of those users. And people under the age of 30 will mostly use TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram much more frequently. And in 2022, another study has shown that 95% of teenagers use YouTube, 62% of teenagers use Instagram, 67% of teenagers uses TikTok, and teenagers will spend at least 3 to 9 hours on average per day on one of these social media platforms. And that's going to be my target audience here, teenagers and college women. So why these two? Well, these are the moments where a person begins to define themselves. Adolescents, teens are very influenced. They can be really subject to change. And having external factors like social media can play a major impact on how they perceive themselves. Same thing with college women, because college is a point where someone matures into adulthood. It's the part where they begin to define their individuality. And these are the two crucial moments in their lives. And having social media project what they should be can play on either or not they can develop in a healthy way. And that's going to play into my proposed solution. So just to highlight and remind everyone here, beauty standards highlight an issue where people are being judged for their appearances, and it plays on the quality of life. They're determined if they can get hired for a job, if they're worth keeping around, if they're worth engaging in, or if they're even a person. And if they want to conform and meet these people's expectations, it can cause some very unhealthy behaviors, mostly eating disorders in that regard. And social media, while it shows these beauty standards, it doesn't provide the context where these standards come from. It's just there in your face. And it becomes like this this isolated experience where people are just expected to be who they are. And my proposed solution for this is to spread the awareness of the toxic influence of beauty standards, to show where these standards come from, but ultimately to have a message of sorts, to be compassionate and empathetic for those who do not meet these expectations, and to also be kind to ourselves for not meeting these expectations. Because people need to understand that beauty standards are going to change. It was different 10 years ago, it was different 10 years before that. It's not going to matter in the end. And when you realize stuff like that, you can be a lot more forgiving on yourself. Now, how would I pull this off? I would just use social media. I would make an account on every social media platform. I would display the artwork, have a theme for the artwork, but I would also reference the cultural expectations of what those cultures consider beautiful. I'll show the artwork and how they're flawed, or what is considered a flaw by our standards, but I would make them human. You have to make the artwork like relate to the person or have them be related to it and make it thought provoking so people can engage it with it. And it's how people can get invested in a subject. And I want to bring up the brand Garbage Pail Kids. It was this gross, disturbing sticker collection that had children like displayed with acne and being overweight, but it highlighted an issue that kids can get acne, kids can be overweight. Childhood obesity was a thing, and they are accident prone to injuries. And for reasons, I did not put any images of a child getting run over by a car, but it became a popular brand because it did highlight these issues. Kids were not immune to these things of life. They did get obese, they did get horrible skin conditions. And it highlighted these issues so well that it caused people to engage with this. It made awareness of a serious problem. And that's how I get people to engage. And it's how I got invested in this research topic because when I was starting out, I just drew some things. And when I presented my artwork to my class, it invoked a very strong emotional response. Not this weird, freaky stuff, but the very insignificant parts of these drawings. This person's arm is too small. This person's neck is too long. This person's is too tall. And I'm thinking, really, that's what you focus on? And it wasn't this minor criticism either. People had a very heated emotional response. And I can't help but think, okay, I feel like you're projecting a little bit about all of this. So I did some normal drawings. I showed it to them, but there was always something wrong. And they always had this heated response behind it. This person's hips is too wide. This person's neck is too long. This person's hat is weird. The ear is too big. It was always something, and people would constantly argue and disagree. Meanwhile, I was just watching behind the sidelines and thinking, where do all these standards come from? Why is the way it is? And why are people so emotionally invested? Why are they so heated about it when they respond to it? And that's what motivated me to dive deep into this research topic. And that is what led me to create this presentation for all of you today. That is all I have to say. Thank you for listening.